Grab your drinks and have a seat. It's time for serial killers.
What's up?
Hello.
How are y'all?
Hello. What up out there?
Anyways, I'm sorry. I'm going to first apologize because it's going to sound echoey.
Yeah, you definitely are going to hear some echoes.
And there's nothing we can do about it. And I'll tell you that in a minute. But first, I'm T.
And I'm Jay.
And we are here to tell you in this echoey ass room about serial killers. So I just want to make a real quick PSA. We are moving. Like, we're packing up our house.
We are out of here.
Selling our house and moving. And it's for Jay's job. And the thing is, we have to sell our house. We've lived in our house for 15 years. And we have to do some stuff to get it ready, like painting the inside, the outside.
Yeah, and look, people, take spring cleaning seriously because, like, we are finding areas that are, like, 15 years. We're like, oh, man.
Actually, I have not found that. So what I have found is I hate painting. So we are painting our whole entire house right now. And one of the things that we were told is as you paint, take the stuff off the walls and then just leave it off the walls because nobody wants to see your personalized shit on the walls when they come and look at your house. So our beautiful Disney podcasting room is now nothing but a beautiful gray room.
It is Disney-less.
There's nothing on the walls. And so because there's nothing on the walls, it's going to be more echoey because there's nothing to block the echoes. And there's not much I can do about it because we have to sell the house to move. So I apologize. I'm going to do the best I can to make sure I don't talk too loud and to make sure that the bouncing of our voices isn't too distracting. But if it gets to be too crazy, then I don't know, maybe I'll take a hiatus of the podcast and figure something else out because I don't know.
Or I'll hang sheets up on the wall. I don't know. We'll do something.
But I was noticing as I'm talking right now, I'm like, I can actually hear the echo. So I don't know how that's going to work out in the editing of it. So we'll see. But if you hear echoes, apologies.
We apologize. We will try to keep it down.
It is true. So let's get into this thing.
What are you drinking?
I am drinking currently water. I hate saying when I drink water because I feel like such a fucking letdown, but I'm drinking water because, like I said, we've been painting and I really don't want to drink nothing else but water because I'm constantly doing painting and packing, and that's kind of just takes it out of me.
And right now I don't have anything, but I was out to dinner with some colleagues, and I will tell you I had a Fat Man cider is what I'm pretty sure it was called, but yeah, interesting. I just like the name Fat Man cider.
What like was it fruity?
No, it was just that's what I was hoping for. No, it was just like a dry cider.
Ew.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm not a cider drinker, but ew. Like cider and beer.
Yeah,
Ew.
That's why I only had one.
Ew. Okay, well, our drinking is boring as shit today. Sorry. Hopefully everything will be good. Anyways, are y'all ready? Are you ready to hear what we're talking about today?
Let's get into it.
Okay. Today we are talking about a man named Archibald Hall.
Archie.
Now, Archibald Hall, his nickname is Roy Fontaine. That's actually an alias, Roy Fontaine. He was also known as Monster Butler and Killer Butler.
And just for the record, Roy Fontaine is a great second name.
Okay. He has five victims, and the murder dates are 1977 and 1978. The location of the murders is the United Kingdom.
Dun, dun, dun.
His method of murders was shooting, suffocation, and beating with an object. Now, here's the characteristic of his murders. He was a jewel thief.
Whoa.
Yeah. So he's not your typical, I love to kill. He is a serial killer by definition for killing 5 people, but he killed for thieves to steal jewelry and
Yeah.
to steal their things. So Archibald was born July 17th, 1924 in Glasgow. I fucking apologize. I need to like start every episode that's not in the United States with I'm sorry. Because I already know Glasgow. I don't know, Scotland.
And I'm pretty sure the S is more like a Z.
But I'm not going to try to sound like
Right.
I just
And then
feel
butcher it
stupid.
even
Yeah.
worse.
So
You're just going to say it like an American.
I'm just going to say it the way that I say it. Apologies. But honestly, if any of you listeners out there, because I know that we're international, if any of you are from Scotland and I butcher the shit out of these names, send me an email with like like how to pronounce them.
Like the phonetic spelling.
Yeah, because I would love to say them correctly, but it's still going to sound very shitty when I say it because I'm like from America. Like I don't have the cool ass accent to go with the sounds, but at least I could try to say it correctly. Anyways, so he was born in Scotland. Now, the only things that are really known about his childhood is that he was raised in a working class family. That's it. That's all they know. They know that also from the age of 15, he began to steal. And he actually does not take too long after he starts stealing before he graduates to breaking into houses and robbing the houses. So he like starts little with like petty theft and then literally graduates into burglary. He's 15 years old. That's pretty young to be breaking into houses. Now, at some point in his life, he moves to London, and he actually moves to London using profits from his criminal ventures. So he's, making a life of it. So at some point, again, a lot of the things with this are a little they're not wish-washy, like the details are there, but I don't have a lot of like detailed information. But what I can tell you is that Archibald at one point of his life ends up receiving a 10-year sentence, and he goes to jail for crimes that were associated with being a jewelry thief. Now, while he is in jail, he actually learns how to act like a member of the upper class. And he even takes voice lessons to weaken his Scottish accent. And he also studies antiques. Now, when he is released from this specific prison sentence, he starts to go by the name of Roy Fontaine. And he chose this actually after the actress Joan Fontaine. So he used her as an inspiration to create Roy Fontaine. Now he starts to upgrade how he decides he's going to steal from people. So he ends up pretending to be sometimes a wealthy aristocrat, or sometimes he'll even pretend he's an American. So he would completely be able to like remove his Scottish accent and act like an American. And he would use these personas to rub elbows with the rich and then steal from them. And he does also, eventually, he actually decides that he's going to gain employment as a butler for the super wealthy. Makes sense. So he uses his dapper position of being able to like switch his personalities, to switch his dialect and to switch how he talks and change the way he speaks to sound more like proper. And then he would apply for jobs as a butler at homes, right? During this time when he's pretending to be a wealthy aristocrat, or when he's doing the American thing, or even as a butler, he actually went to jail a couple of different times during this time also as a jewel thief. Like he would get caught doing things and then go in and out of jail. And during this time, he also gets married, but also gets divorced. Okay, so he's just got a rough life, I feel like. He's just he's roughing it. Now, Archibald gets released out of prison after his 10-year sentence, right? He ends up returning to Scotland. So he leaves, because again, he was in London. He gets out of prison. He goes back to Scotland, and he decides he's going to get a job working as a butler for Margaret, also known as Peggy Hudson. Now, she was called Lady Hudson. Now, Lady Hudson hires him as his butler. She really likes him. She thinks he's a nice guy. She's a widow, and her former husband was a very wealthy man. I believe he was part of like Parliament or something. Like he was high up there. Or maybe he was like a congressperson, but he was high up there. Now, his initial plan with taking this job was that he was going to rob her. Like he was going to literally pretend to be her butler for like a hot second, and then he was going to steal her jewelry and steal anything that he could that was of wealth to her. However, he changes his mind because he actually genuinely likes her. And he thinks that she is a very nice woman. And he appreciates her employment and the way that she treats him. He actually appreciates her as an employer. And so he's like, I'm not going to steal from her. Okay. Like, that's pretty fair, right? Nice guy.
A robber with a conscience.
And he actually never does. He never does actually steal from her. However, a couple years after he starts working for her, she hires another man named David Wright. Now, David actually had been in jail with Archibald at one point, so they knew of each other. And the two men actually end up getting in an argument at one point because David steals from Lady Hudson. He steals.
So now he's protecting her.
Yes. And Archibald is like, fuck no. Like, you're not going to steal from her. She's a good woman. She is very caring. She treats us well. How dare you fucking steal from her? To which David looks at Archibald and is like, listen, if you fucking tell her that I stole from her, I'm going to tell her about all of your past criminal record. I'm going to tell her that you're a jewelry thief. I'm going to tell her that you steal, and I'm going to tell her that you were probably planning on stealing from her. Then Archibald's like, point taken. Fine. And so he keeps his mouth shut. However, Archibald decides he's going to make things right with David. And he's like, okay, cool. Let's just let bygones be bygones. Don't steal from her anymore. Okay. Secondly, hey, let's go hunting. Okay, David. Because David's job was to make sure that the grounds, because apparently where Lady Hudson lived, it was like this it was this big mansion, but then it's a humongous property. And apparently his job was to keep the grounds pristine for rabbit hunting. Or like, I think of Mary Poppins when they do that, right? So that's what, yes. So his literal job was like a game hunting guy. Like his job was to maintain all the grounds. And then when they would do hunting parties and stuff, he was there. So Archibald's like, okay, let's go out. Let's just go shoot some rabbits. Let bygones be bygones. Let's cool. To which he's like, yeah, let's do it. So they go. Okay, they go on this little trip to go shooting the rabbits. And once they're out in the fields looking for the rabbits, Archibald turns and shoots David.
Saw that coming.
Yeah. And he buries him next to a stream on the grounds in the home. I mean, on the grounds near the home, right? So there's a stream on this property. Could you imagine that, by the way, to have that much property? To where like you have a hunting area and then you have like a stream in the middle of your property. Yeah. So he that's what he does. Now, this was so fucking pointless for him to kill David because Lady Hudson eventually does find out about Archibald's past and it bothers her. However, she doesn't fire him, but he likes her so much that he actually decides he's going to politely step away. And he actually quits. And he's like, I'm going to leave and go back to London and find another job.
And you can keep the body by the stream.
I know. I'm curious. Like, how did that conversation go? Like, hey, what happened to David? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. You guys went
swimming
hunting?
And never came back.
Yeah, I don't know. Now, once he's back in London, he actually becomes involved in racketeering and he continues to steal from people. And he becomes a butler again for Walter Scott Elliot and his wife, Dorothy. Now, Walter was a former member of Parliament and he was from upper class Scottish family and had a lot of money. And so he was like, yes, sure, Archibald, I'd love to hire you. Now, again, Archibald's plan was to rob the couple of their belongings and then he would retire actually from the criminal world. That's how much these people had. He was going to steal enough stuff that he was never going to have to be a criminal again. That was his plan. Of stuff. And it was such a big plan that he even brought in an accomplice to help him. Now, his accomplice's name is Michael Kiddo. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I do not know why Archibald and Michael are not grouped together in my serial killer book. I'm letting you know now. So it's kind of a spoiler alert because Michael is involved in every single murder after this. So I don't know why Michael was because like in my serial killer book, if it's two people, it'll tell you like both the people and then it'll give you information about both. And Michael Kiddo is not in my books at all. That's what I thought. I looked in both books and I was like, how is Michael Kiddo not there? He's also a serial killer.
Yeah.
It's really weird. Anyways, so he brings in this guy named Michael Kiddo. Dorothy, the wife, she accidentally walks in one day and she overhears a conversation between Michael and Archibald. And this conversation is literally about a plan that they are going to put into motion to steal all this shit from the Scott Elliots. Okay? And at this point, Michael's like, well, fuck, Dorothy. you probably shouldn't have heard what we just said. And he decides to put a pillow over Dorothy's face and suffocate her. Just to make sure.
Yeah.
Now, Archibald and Michael, then they go find Walter. And they actually drug Walter. And then they put him in a car. And they drive him to Scotland with the help of the housekeeper, Mary Coggle. So they're all in on it.
So now Mary's in on it, yeah.
They bury Dorothy's body in, apologies again.
Next to a stream on a...
No. They bury her body in Brocco, Perthshire, as Americans say it, Perthshire. I don't know if that's correct. And then while they're there, they decide they're going to beat the shit out of Walter with a shovel and strangle him to death. Which, by the way, he was unconscious, because he was drugged. So they beat him with a shovel. And then they strangled him till he was stopped breathing.
Huh.
And so his body
aggressive.
is then taken and buried near Tommick, Invernshire, in a wooded area. The fucking shires. There's so many shires in this story. I love it. Now, after this incident, and again, remember, Mary's now, and the three of them are like chilling. Okay. So Mary, Michael, and Archibald all go back to the Scott Elliott's home, and they just start to live their life there. Because, who's going to know they're gone? Yeah. Well, then Mary decides that it's a good idea. She starts wearing the clothing and jewelry that was Dorothy's.
Come on, Mary.
And this becomes a very clear problem for the three of them, because in this day and age, or ever, if you are a maid or a housekeeper and you're rolling around with big fat fucking jewels and really, really expensive clothing, people are wondering what you're doing.
Right.
And so basically they're kind of like, this is starting to draw attention and we don't really like it. And so Archibald and Michael, they basically go to Mary and they're like, listen, you need to get rid of the fur coat that you fucking wear everywhere, because everybody knows that you can't afford a fur coat and you're walking around with fur coat and jewels on all the time. And people are starting to notice. And she said, no, I earned these. And they said, fine. So they beat Mary to death with a metal fire poker, and they actually just left her body out in the open near a stream near Middleby, Dumfriesshire, another shire. And they left her out though. Like they didn't bury her or nothing. They just left her out, probably because she was just the housekeeper.
Yeah,
I'm assuming. I don't know what their deal was. Now her body was actually found in December of that same year. Now the last known victim of Archibald and Michael was a man named Donald. Now, Donald happened to be Archibald's half-brother.
Wow, nobody's off limits.
Well, listen, I'm not saying that I'm a proponent for vigilante justice, but hear me out. Donald was recently released from prison. Donald had been incarcerated for pedophilia. I'm just saying, I'm not good. That's all I'm saying. And Archibald hated Donald. Fair enough. Now they find Donald at a holiday home in Cumbria, and this ends up hatching a plan. The two of them hatch a plan to get rid of Donald together. So Archibald and Michael tell Donald that they are actually creating a plan to go on this really big robbery. And they tell him, this robbery is probably the biggest one we've ever done, but it's going to include, we're going to have to tie up our victim to be able to rob their house. Right. And he's like, oh, okay. And they're like, you can help us out. We'll cut you in on it. And he's like, yeah, cool. And they said, okay, so one of the things we need to do first is we need to practice.
Yeah, I knew that's where you're going.
We got to practice tying up
and he said,
the victim.
Okay.
And he said, all right, I got you. Tie me up. So Archibald and Michael, they end up tying him up. And as he's tied up, they actually completely incapacitate him using chloroform. And then they take his body, which is passed out because of the chloroform, and they drown him in the bathtub. And also, that's the other thing about this guy is a killer. I don't think he killed anybody the same way. I think every person was killed differently. Yeah. He shot somebody, killed somebody with a shovel,
fire poker,
killed somebody he beat him with a shovel and then strangled him, killed with a fire poker, drowned him. And then Dorothy was killed by Michael Kiddo and he suffocated her. I don't think so. Nobody was actually murdered the same way. Now, the two men then put Donald's body in the trunk of their car and they drive to Scotland to get rid of the body. That's the other thing I noticed is they lived in London and then they drop bodies in Scotland a lot. And I don't know anything about the that United Kingdom area, but they must be semi close to each other to be able to drive like
Yeah.
that. So, fun. Anyways, so they do that. Now, before they leave, Archibald tells Michael, hey, we need to change the license plate on this car because this car, the license plate number has 3 9s in it. And that is like really bad luck. And I'm not trying to drive this body over to Scotland
In a bad
luck car. So we need to change it. Now, I was thinking when I saw that they changed the license plate, he was like, this car is stolen. We don't want to get caught. No, it had 3 9s and that's bad luck. I thought 3 6s was bad luck, but apparently it's 3 9s. And so, which of course Michael's like, yeah, okay, fine. So Michael ends up, he changes out the license plate. Now, as they're going, see, now they must not be too close though, because as they're driving, it's winter time during this time. So the roads aren't that great. And so at one point, they pull off on the side of the road to a hotel and decide they're going to stay the night at a hotel. So obviously Scotland and the area of they were in London, must not be that close to each other, but close enough that I guess you could drive.
Scotland to England is 8 hours and 11 minutes.
London?
I'll put in London.
Because they're in London. And they were going to Scotland.
10 hours and 50 minutes.
Okay, so I guess that makes sense because you could drive that in a day, but if it's really crappy roads and it's because it's winter and the roads were getting kind of dangerous and dicey, and so they were like, yeah, we're gonna go stay in a hotel. So that's what they do. I could see that. I can see that. So they decide they're gonna pull over to the side of the road to a hotel to stay the night actually at the Blenheim House Hotel. So they pull into this Blenheim House Hotel and they're like, hey, let's go get a room. Okay. So they go in, they talk to the person at the front desk or the receptionist or whatever. And they basically say, hey, can we get a room? Guy's like, yeah. He gives them the key, I'm assuming, to the room. And then off they go. Well, something about Archibald and Michael seemed a little suspicious to the guy that was checking them in. And one of the things that he was talking about was like one of the men was very fidgety and like wouldn't make eye contact. And so what he actually was worried about is he thought they're not going to fucking pay for the hotel. Mm-hmm. Like they're going to come, they're not going to come check out tomorrow and I'm going to be stuck with, they're going to have a free room.
Right.
And so he calls the police on them. And he's like, hey, I have these 2 guys. I don't think they're going to pay for the hotel they just checked in, but they're acting really strange. I'm pretty sure they don't have the money to pay. Can you come? So the police are like, yeah, sure, whatever. So the police show up and they see that like which vehicle did they come in? Where are they at? Type stuff. And they have police officers that are basically going to go knock on the door, but they're also wanting to find out who they are. So they take the license plate number of this vehicle. They call it in, they check it, they check out. And they
realize it doesn't match.
They realize that the license plates do not match what is on record for the license plates. So they realize that whatever the license plates are not registered to whatever vehicle these plates are on. So immediately they go to the room, knock on the door. Archibald and Michael are then taken into custody for questioning about why the fuck they have a car that is not registered, obviously, correctly. They then take the car to the police station as well, and they decide, well, we're going to just, let's take a look at the car and find out if we can find out whose car this is. So as they're looking, they discover a dead body in the trunk of the vehicle.
Can you just imagine you like pop the trunk and like, oh, damn.
And also, so much for your 999 bad
right.
luck, buddy. So Michael gets arrested, obviously. Archibald escapes through a bathroom window.
Ooh.
And he is actually recaptured not too far down the road because he did not get very far. And I'm thinking it's because of the weather.
Yeah, it was super cold.
And they had enough time. This is how, however, they get taken down to get questioned. He goes to the bathroom. Michael gets arrested because they find the body. They go to arrest Archibald. He is not in the bathroom. He's gone. And he made it so not far enough that they set up an entire fucking roadblock, which is how they got him. That's not, it's not like you're not doing that shit fast, right? I mean, you are, but it had to take him, you took that long to escape? Like, you should have been running. It sounds like he was slowly walking away.
I'm just going to move over here.
Now, after further investigation of the registration number that was linked to the car, they find a link between the car and a suspicious antique dealer that they know of. And then they find out that this is actually, the antique dealer is actually someone that Archibald and Michael had once offered to sell china and silver to at had once offered to sell china and silver for him at low prices. So they're starting to see a connection like, okay, wait, this car is not the car that's registered to this license plate. This license plate number is registered to this antique dealer. They talk to the dealer and he's like, well, no, I know Archibald and Michael. They were going to actually sell china and silver for me at a lower price to people. Like that's what they were going to do. And so they're like, okay, well, why do they have your license plate number, right? So they're going through. They find that this car actually belongs to a Walter and Dorothy Scott Elliott. So they decide we're going to go to their apartment, let them know that we found their car. So they knock on their door. Nobody answers. They kind of look suspicious. So they go inside and they find blood spatter in this house. And they're like, okay, something's really strange here. These people aren't here. These two guys have their car and there's blood spatter. Then as they're dealing even more so with this, they are now able to also link, oh shit. And I'm pretty sure this is where the blood spatter comes in. Oh shit. That is Mary Coggle. That's Mary Coggle's blood. Now hold the hell on. Mary Coggle was their housekeeper. So what's going on here? And again, they find out that Mary Coggle's the housekeeper because she's listed in their records as a housekeeper. But I think they were able to match, maybe not DNA because it's not during that time. But I think they were able to do blood types because I know they've been able to do blood types for a really long time. So they might have been able to look at Walter and Dorothy's blood type and see that's not their blood type, but Mary Coggle's blood type might have matched. And that kind of makes them go, hold on. Their housekeeper, we found her dead. That's her blood. Like, they were able to link this all together. They also find evidence that 3 men and 1 woman had entered into a hotel in Scotland. But the next night, only 2 men had returned.
I wonder why.
And so now they're sitting there going, okay, hold on. There's all these things, all these different things going on. And they find out that these 2 men were Archibald and Michael. So now they're kind of putting together these things. So Archibald does actually try to commit suicide while he's in custody, which is always, in my opinion, red flag.
Yeah, right there.
And he does eventually actually tell the police, okay, well, first of all, he was unsuccessful, but he does actually tell the police, okay, listen, I did kill some people and I'm going to go ahead and tell you where the bodies are. So he does tell them. So after they locate the bodies, Archibald tells them where they are. Archibald and Michael are charged with 5 counts of murder. Both of them are. Now, Michael Kiddo is sentenced to life in prison for 3 of the murders. And there is no recommendation minimum for him in Scotland or in England, because remember, they killed in both. And his minimum sentence is set to 15 years. So he has to be in jail for at least 15 years, which is so weird to me.
Yeah.
Considering I was just recently told that the minimum is 25 in Canada, which is run by England. So that's weird that he'd only get 15. There's that. And then Archibald goes to trial and he is convicted of 4 of the murders and he is sentenced to life in prison. And it is recommended for Archibald that he serve a minimum of 15 years by a Scotland judge. However, an England judge comes forward and says, no, I recommend he never gets released. And so over the years, every time a new home secretary comes in, so they have home secretaries that I don't know if they're voted in or what, but it changes hands. Anytime that a new home secretary comes into office, Archibald is again put on a list of dangerous prisoners who should never be let out and should serve a whole life sentence.
Wow.
Now, in 1995, a letter was sent to the Observer newspaper, and it was from Archibald, who was requesting that he should be allowed to have the right to die. So he was fighting basically to be allowed death.
Yeah, he's like, you're not going to let me out of here. Just kill me then.
But they don't have a death penalty like in England.
Right.
At least to my knowledge, they do not. And I'm saying to my knowledge, I'm taking 1 second because I meant to say this at the beginning of this podcast and I fucking forgot. I had a person who decided to comment on our last episode about Canada's justice system because I had made the comment that I was not a fan of Canada's justice system. And I'm going to reiterate something here real quick. I'm not a fan of Canada's justice system. I'm also not a fan of the justice system in the United States. And I'm not a fan of a lot of the justice systems we have because they're broken. I was informed that I should do more research on the Canadian justice system because the minimum life sentence is 25 years, which is the same in the United States, by the way. And if you guys all feel that 25 years is a fair enough sentence for somebody who is a serial killer, that's on you. But in my opinion, that is not. And then I was informed, but they also have a thing called dangerous offender, which I know of. I just did not mention dangerous offender because unfortunately, the dangerous offender thing does not apply to all of the actual dangerous offenders. I personally, on my other podcast on Crime Bitches, have done multiple Canadian episodes. And one in particular stands out in my mind because this guy killed and was let out of prison and was a danger to society and was told that he was going to be a danger to society. And they did not, or maybe it must have been on this. Actually, now I take that back. It was probably on Fatal Blend because he killed again after being let out of prison.
Yeah.
And so, no, I understand there's a dangerous offender statute. The problem that I have with the justice system, and it's the same problem I have with the justice system today in the United States, is that the rules don't apply evenly to everybody. It's literally based on the judge you have and how they feel. Instead of having like a ground set of rules, they have kind of rules that are up for interpretation by the judge. So I will reiterate and state again, I do not like the Canadian justice system because I do not feel it delivers justice properly. As I said, I also do not like the United States justice system because I do not feel it does justice proper or does not serve justice properly. So I understand that the person who commented was very offended by the fact that I did not like the Canadian justice system. And I'm here to explain that we can have difference of opinions. It's completely okay. Or if you're Canadian and you like the justice system in Canada, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, absolutely not.
You can
There's
totally,
people here in the U.S. that
absolutely.
like the
There's a
justice
lot of
system.
people who like the United
Just because
States.
we don't agree with it
Right.
doesn't mean anything.
A lot of people like the United States justice system. I think our justice system is broken. I think there is a lot of things that we could be doing differently. And I think Canada could follow suit. And that's just what I mean. But I will follow that up by saying, even though the person who commented was trying to be mean, very mean actually, I do appreciate that you listened to the whole entire episode. I know you did because what part of your comment was making fun of the fact that I didn't know what CBC stood for, even though I did, but my brain was completely like shitting itself and wouldn't. And you called me an amateur because of it. And that was at the end of the episode. So I do appreciate that you listened all the way through the episode. And I appreciate that you took the time to leave the comment. And I even commented back and I was very polite about it because I'm not even mad at the fact that you called me out. I wanted to just explain that we can all have differences of opinions and it's okay. I don't have to like your justice system and you don't have to like my justice system and you also don't have to like what I have to say and that's fine. And I appreciate you for listening anyways. Anyways, back to what I was saying. I meant to say this at the beginning of the podcast because it was like on my brain when I was typing it up and then I completely forgot because, well, we're moving. So my brain isn't where it is. Anyways, so yes. So Archibald was recommended to have a whole life sentence and never get out of prison. And then again, he was asking for the right to die in 1995. He was writing letters to newspapers at like basically trying to make it a point that like, listen, if you're not going to let me out, then let me just die because here I am. Now in 2002, Archibald does actually die of a stroke and he is 78 years old when he dies. So that's the story of Arch. But do you see why I'm saying like Michael Kiddo, like why the fuck is...
Yeah.
Why? And to be honest, I have zero updates on Michael Kiddo because even when I looked him up, so when I went to research Michael Kiddo, it brings me back to Archibald. There is only the little snippets of Michael Kiddo. So my assumption is he might be out of prison. To be fair, Michael Kiddo could be out of prison because he was only given 15 years. And I mean, that was in... I think it was the 70s when he got that sentence. But I am going to say this. If he really stayed in prison for 15 years, do you think 15 years is justice for killing 4 people? Because he technically killed 4 people. So is that justice? No, I don't think so. When you kill 4 people, I mean, he was only, I guess we'll go even more into it. He was actually charged with murdering 3 people. So he killed 3 people and his minimum sentence is 15 years. So if he only served the minimum, let's say he was really good in jail and he only served the minimum, do you feel that a 15-year sentence is justice for somebody who killed 3 people? I personally do not. Because that's like 5 years per life. And I feel like if you kill somebody on purpose, by the way, not accidental, not manslaughter. We're not talking manslaughter. We're talking about actual, like you planned to kill these people. That's not justice in my opinion. So that's the story of Archibald Hall. Would you like the shots? I don't have very many, but I do.
Yeah, that's what we stick around to the end for.
Okay. So one of the scams that Archibald had done when he was 17 years old. So Ken, remember when he was 15, he was like into stealing some stuff. So one of the scams that he actually had come up with, which for reals, if he would have just not killed people, he would have been a very rich man. He would collect money for the Red Cross. Now, I'm assuming it sounds very similar to what we see for Salvation Army. So in the United States, we have the Salvation Army, and especially at Christmas time, you have people who stand, they ring a bell, and there's a bucket, and then you can go do it. So Red Cross, at the time, when he was 17, they did the same thing. He would carry 2 tins with him for the Red Cross, and he would put them out, and people would donate money, and then he would go to the Red Cross, and he would give the Red Cross 1, and then he would keep the other for himself. Now, shortly after his 10-year sentence, the 10-year sentence that he had that began in 1964, Archibald escapes prison shortly after beginning his 10-year sentence. I don't understand this escape thing. And he is not recaptured until 1966. So he's out of prison. He escapes for 2 years.
It's a pretty long escape.
Yeah, and he does end up receiving an extra 5 years for the escape. Now, again, we're going to reiterate something. 10 years for jewelry jewel theft, and then 5 years for escaping from prison, so 15 years. He started it in 1964, so he should have been out of prison when? 79.
10.
Okay, so he should have been out in 1979, right?
Yes.
Okay, we talk about justice. Okay, this is the UK. He was paroled in 1972, so he did not even serve 10 years, let alone 15. The math ain't mathin'.
Nope.
Okay.
And you said it was 68 and he got
64 and then
and got
15.
paroled in 72.
Right. So he only served 8 years.
8 years, yeah.
So he served 8 years of a 15-year sentence. So he served half. And in my mind, I'm like, but he escaped prison. I don't care about the jewelry thief shit. Like, I don't care. But he escaped prison. He should have at least served the extra 5 years. So you want to so anyway, so my point is that's the shit that drives me crazy about justice systems across the board is you let somebody who escaped out of prison early and like early, annoying. Now, during Michael Kiddo's trial, because they both went to trial differently, right? During Michael Kiddo's trial, there was evidence that was produced by the police that showed that Archibald actually had a plan to kill Michael.
Not a shock.
They brought. I actually, it does shock me because they killed so many people together.
He's
what?
like the last loose end.
But he wasn't. But why would he be a loose end? Because they together.
But if he got to a point where he's like, I can live the rest of my life, I don't want.
But he wasn't there, so that's weird that he had a plan already to kill Michael. So that I think shocked Michael. I don't think Michael knew about that. Then also, Archibald published his own autobiography called A Perfect Gentleman in 1999. Now, in 2011, there was a process of a movie being filmed called A Monster Butler.
Well, I was going to say, this whole thing sounds like a movie.
But they did end up canceling it due to lack of funds. So that movie was never made. But I do believe that A Perfect Gentleman is a book that you can, I think it's still out there in the world that you could read. And yes, I'm sure if I would have read the autobiography, I probably could have known all the things about Archibald's early life. But to be honest with you, I don't I feel like I got enough information about just his criminal activity to be like, okay, this is a podcast. But I'm sure I'll probably end up reading it. I like to read stuff like that anyways. And then final shot is Archibald once said, and I quote, "There is a side of me when aroused that is cold and completely heartless." You think?
Yeah.
Like, bro, you killed people to steal jewels from them. Of course.
I was trying to see if there was a book.
No, I mean, there is a book. I just don't know where you would get it. Anyways, so yes, that is the story of Archibald Hall, which I really feel like should be, that is the story of Archibald Hall and Michael Kiddo.
Right.
Like that's how because again, he was very much involved in all but one of the murders.
Well,
and as a matter of fact, both of them killed one person by themselves.
Right.
So Archibald killed David Wright by himself and Michael Kiddo killed Dorothy by himself. So it's like, and then they killed everybody else together, buried bodies together, beat people together. They did it all. So I do not understand why Michael Kiddo is not linked heavily with Archibald. I don't understand that.
Be like a duel.
I know. Because I mean, we've seen other ones. I mean, I've done other podcasts that are
absolutely
partners and they basically were partners in this. So it's very
It sounds
strange.
weird to say this, but I wonder if it's because it's two guys. They're just
no, because there've definitely been, I mean, we haven't done them yet, but there's definitely like the Hillside Stranglers that are two men. And we've actually done a couple of them that are two men that are serial killers together. And so I don't quite understand why. I just think maybe enough research hasn't been done on Michael Kiddo or something. I don't know. Because like I said, when you try to research Michael Kiddo, you can't find anything. Every time I'd put in Michael Kiddo, it would come up with Archibald Hall. And then you'd read and it would like highlight Michael Kiddo.
Maybe it's a split personality.
No, he's really a person. He's a real person. I mean, I saw pictures of him, but it's strange. Anyways, so thanks for listening to us. If you like the things that you hear, and if you like to listen to me talk, and if you like to hear Jay's little bits and pieces that he says, and if you want to hang out with us more, continue to listen to us and like us.
And if you want to leave a comment, just be a decent human being.
It doesn't bother me.
I know, but
it really doesn't.
Like, it's just
it
like
kind
of
makes me giggle.
It does. It makes me laugh. It doesn't bother me at all. But it's just like that's what you chose to wake up and do with your time. Like, come on, be a better.
Well,
person.
no, you know what? What's funny? Here's why it doesn't bother me. I would not personally leave negative. I don't even leave negative feedback on like restaurants or like grocery stores. Like I do not leave negative reviews for people. It's just not my thing. But I clearly offended this person by saying that I didn't agree with the Canadian justice system. And that is okay. I mean, it's not okay that I offended you. I don't mean that. I mean, it's okay that you feel some type of way about it. And it is okay for you to come onto our podcast and say like, hey, you don't know enough about the Canadian justice system to say that. And that's fine if you feel that way. But I can also follow it up and tell you that I actually know a lot more about the Canadian justice system than you think I do. And the reason that is because one of the things that was a very big thing, especially through college for myself, I took a whole entire psychology class that literally focused on criminal justice. We had to study the United States versus other countries. And Canada was one of them because it's right next door to us. And we had to compare. And we had to find out that, for instance, the Canadian justice system is better in a lot of ways compared to the United States. I just don't agree with a lot of things they do. But by far, my personal opinion, for anybody who wants to know, I think one of the most successful justice systems currently in our world right now is Norway. Their recidivism rate is the lowest in the entire world. And it's because of the way they do things. And it's because of the way they hand out their punishments. And the United States does everything to punish, and not rehabilitate, which is my frustration with the United States. And in Canada, I tend to feel that they are too lenient on their horrific criminals. I don't think that their whole entire justice system sucks. I'm just saying that there are some very terrible people who have not received the proper sentences in Canada. So it is okay if you do not agree with me, and I'm totally fine if you want to be mad about it. Totally fine. Which is why I responded the way that I did. I'm not mad. I actually find it funny. It does make me giggle. And also, I've said this before. Every time I get a negative review or a negative comment, it makes me feel good because it makes me realize that I've reached somebody that normally probably wouldn't listen to me, for one. And for two, I'm getting bigger and bigger every day.
Yeah.
When you start getting negative comments and people take the time to say something negative, that means they think that you are worth a shit to say something negative to. And I love that. So I appreciate it. I don't mind the negative comments. I appreciate the banter and I appreciate the conversations more than I appreciate negative comments. But negative comments are welcome too, because we are all allowed to have our opinions. Every single one of them. Even if I don't agree with you, I am still going to sit there and let you say your shit and say your spiel. No problems. Jay's a little different than I am on that, and that's okay.
No, I don't mind people saying their stuff. It's just like how you say
well,
it. Right?
I mean,
like,
you know, calling me an amateur cracks me up because I wanted to.
We are amateurs.
That's, I was just going to say, I didn't say that, but what I want to say is like, I know I'm an amateur. Hence the reason I'm doing a podcast about something that is something I like to research.
And that's what I'm talking about. It's like, we don't mind negative feedback because it's going to happen. We're not going to be for everybody, but it's like how you say it. Like,
no, I know. I very rarely do I actually get negative feedback. Really, most of the time, people that do give us comments, they're actually applauding us or thanking us or telling us like, "Oh, I love listening to you guys," and I think that's great.
Or get video. Yeah,
I do get a lot of get video, but I mean, I appreciate all the comments because again, every time you comment, you just bump my ego goes up in the world because I'm like, fuck yeah, you cared enough to write a bad comment, which means you think that I touch enough lives that your comment makes a difference.
There you go.
And I love it.
All right. And
anyways,
on that note,
thank you once again for listening to me tell you the story of Archibald Hall, the monster butler, but also it should have been Archibald Hall and Michael Kiddo.
Right.
Until next week, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Remember to lock your doors and bar your windows. Until next time.